Amina Mohammed joins me now. Welcome to the 8th Forum for the Future of Agriculture. You are a Special Advisor to the UN, to the Secretary General on the post-2015 Sustainable Development Goals. Now, of course, Ban Ki-moon has actually put them into 6 categories. I know there's some debate about 17. There are a lot, but then there are many complicated issues. And he has said those essential elements include dignity, prosperity, justice, partnership, planet, which is one that we want to talk about, of course, and that they do represent a paradigm shift. How would you sum that up, Amina? I mean, what would you say is the central message in terms of what is going to change and how important they are?
I think the real shift, it's a universal agenda, and it's one that we sort of say you can't silo what you invest in or have a conversation about or implement because it has such implications for the other sides. And so for us, yes, we want to see economies grow, but we want to see them grow that they take care of the environment we're looking at, and when we look at agriculture, there is a big need to see that we get smarter about it. But at the same time, we want to include people, we want to include women, we want to make sure that livelihoods are a reality and a reality that grow. Yesterday I heard one of my colleagues speak about, we always talk about microcredit and micro this, and it's about women and micro, and she said, we're not micro, we're a very big part of this. So I think the real change in it is bringing the implementation part of this, the results part of it, and really talking about partnerships to make that paradigm shift of sustainable development work. And sustainability means that we don't reverse the gains, that you put things in for the longer term, and that what you're doing is building on it and not just reversing those gains over decades.
It's interesting because when I read them, the focus was on women there. There was a focus also on smallholders. And if there was a criticism of the Millennium Development Goals, perhaps it was that these were targets for poor countries to be achieved with wealthy countries' investment. That's something that's changing because empowerment is so important. Mm-hmm. You need to have an income, which often comes from the land in many countries, often in small holdings, to then be able to not only feed yourselves, but eradicate poverty, generate good food, and do it sustainably. This is an important theme, isn't it?
It's very important. We've talked about it in developing countries for a while. I was walking through and I was asking a couple of the people here at this conference. I've seen participation by the Landowners Association, I can't quite remember what they're called, but anyway, landowners, and I thought that's really interesting. How many of that particular membership here are women? And it was an interesting response too, not very many. So across the world, there is a lack of taking advantage of an asset that we have, and that's women, and that's 50%. And if you're going to empower everyone, if you're really talking about transformations of economies that are lasting, then everyone's got to have the capacity, the access to do the things that we need to do. And so I think when you see women, it's because they're excluded. It's because they're not there, and this is what's missing from it. And I think that when we talk about an integrated way of doing things, women naturally do that. We are multitasking every day of our lives, and so we bring that asset way of thinking to the whole question of how you do this in a way that's sustainable and it's useful for us.
You mentioned smart farming. It's one of the themes at this conference. So you've been hearing the voices of farmers, maybe some of them were women, I don't know. Precision farming, those kind of ideas, being clever, being joined up, and certainly in talking about technology enabling that's important. Baroness Martha Lane Fox was talking on the BBC lecture last night about empowering women to go out and fill that technology space. So all of these things are very important trends. They feed into your Sustainable Development Goals. How then are they going to be actionable? When do you want to really see this is the big question, isn't it? The money, how it goes, where it's measured, the outputs.
I think to get a framework that we all agree to, and to see the coherence and the collaboration to make that work is going to be important, whatever country that we're in. But every little bit helps, and we need to see our place in the complete value chain of this. And I think that when I look at Grow Africa, it's something that they're trying very hard to do. And so for technology, it will find its place in some places better than others. one thing's for sure, we have an entry point to this new framework to bring it to everyone. And I think that what we have to do, as I said before, there's an urgency to get this on the table, and where we can scale it up and do it at speed, we should do, because the capacities will be there. But where they're not, let's not be in a hurry to fail, where we sort of cut and paste technology, it comes unstuck a couple of years later. There has to be a longer term investment in this, and it is a transition. So I think these are the conversations we need to have, and that it's win-win for everyone. It's not taking away anything, it's actually gaining. And I think that the technology aspect of it is about how we buy young people into farming. We've been having this discussion in many of our developing countries that farmers are a dying race.
There's a discussion in Europe, I think
Probably here as well.
14% are under 40 years old.
So how do you bring them back? And I think that if we include them in the value chain, and if we show them the benefits of it, and the types of partnerships that you can have, and the collaboration now in a global village, you know, that's far more interesting for a young person who has visions, thinks big and quickly these days because of technology. That's what I think we have to do. Where's the excitement in all of this? We seem to be weighed down by what can't be done instead of what can be.
One thing we know is that we're not going to eradicate poverty by degrading the environment, and that's one thing that's, of course, is always discussed. You know, and looking at that in terms of the EU policy framework, in terms of innovation in agriculture in Europe and what they can do, you know, this is another big topic, right?
Big topic, requires investments. That's why financing for development is about means of implementation. And we heard today, you know, how do you continue to invest in science, and how do you find science's place in all of this? And you have to start right at the beginning. Until you can encourage a child to look up into the sky and think, what if? Or look around them and be aware of the possibilities, then you will not get the science later. And I think that that's what we have to do now, start sowing those seeds back again. I mean, I had them when I went to school, but they're no longer there. Somehow become a luxury. So I think that that's going to be really important. But the more we can bring this to a reality, the more we can bring it across, that for Europe it does matter. I mean, I think if we look at some of the jobs that young people have lost, it's because the education they've received has not been one that allows them to do more than a job. How do you ensure that there is a skill set that allows entrepreneurship, that allows you to see around you? Markets that must change and focus on, you know, better ways of consumption and production, alternatives, and that's why I think the circular economy idea is wonderful. But let's have a conversation. Let's look at the implications of a framework right now that I think not many people are so aware of, because it's still a work in progress. Look at those 17 goals and see them as opportunities for investments, but seeing the implication in our lives as a global village.
We wish you well in ratifying those objectives, and thank you very much for talking to us today. Enjoy the forum.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.